everyone, welcome to Jolly Molly TV. We are going to do another fun block today in Kimberbell's Candy Cane Lane bench pillow slash table topper slash wall hanging project. And today we're going to do the last of the main blocks, and it's going to be this hot cocoa stand. Isn't that cute? Okay, so let's go ahead and grab your plastic pouch system or plastic bag system where you've labeled it for the hot cocoa stand, and let's grab our supplies and go over to the machine and let's get started. Okay, we are at the machine and ready to start working on the cocoa stand. I have my 8x12 hoop in the machine loaded with a piece of the poly no-show mesh stabilizer. I have a bobbin down below loaded with white thread, and I have white thread on the top of my machine. So now let's go ahead and go to the screen and let's load the design. Okay, I have a Brother Dream machine just for reference, so if you have something similar you can follow along. I'm going to go to Embroidery. I'm going to go to my flash drive because I put all the designs on the flash drive. Going to go to Candy Cane, and I'm going to do the quilting background first. Okay, if you're following along with the instructions, we are on pages 12 and 13. And if you look at the top of 13, it says that we're going to be squaring the finished block to 6.5 by 8.5 inches. That tells me that I want to pick a quilting design just slightly smaller than that, so I'll go for the 6 by 8. So let me scroll down here. This is the design that I want to use for this, which is the candy canes and the peppermint. And I'm looking for 6 by 8. And there it is. That's the design I want to bring in. So we're going to click Set. And it brings in, it looks great. Now I'm going to add the applique design on top. I'm going to go to my flash drive again, go back to candy cane, and I'm going to go to the main blocks. Now, if your machine can't add multiple designs on top of each other, no problem. You're just going to stitch out the quilting design first. You'll clear the memory on your machine, and then you'll load the applique design out and stitch that out. Okay? So now I'm looking to pull in the design for the cocoa stand, which is right here. Isn't this cute? That's going to be adorable. All right, so we don't need to do anything to it. We're going to click Set. Don't need to move it or anything, and we're going to click Embroidery. And now we are ready to go. So let's go back to the hoop cam. I've got white thread up on top. Let's go ahead and stitch out the first stitch, which is the placement line for the batting. Here we go. Okay, so now I'm going to lay the batting down and just make sure that you cover that placement line. Make sure you've got equal amounts on each side and top and bottom. Double check. We are good to go. White thread still on top. Put the foot down and let's tack down this batting. Alright, now let's take the hoop off the machine. Let's take this over to the table and let's trim away all this excess batting. So that's trimmed up nicely. So now let's leave white thread up on top, put the foot down, and let's stitch out the placement line for the fabric. Okay, so now we're going to lay the fabric down right side up, making sure that your back side that has the fusible is facing down. Make sure you've got enough on each side. And then I can also feel the batting as well and know that I've got the fabric pretty much centered based on where I can feel that batting. All right, so let's tack this down. Still white thread up on top. You got this. Okay, so now's the fun part. Now we're going to stitch out the quilting design. This is about a 4-minute stitch out in real life. I've left the white thread up on top because I want the white thread to blend in with the white fabric, so the quilting will be subtle. All right, so let's go ahead and put the foot down and let's stitch out the quilting designs. Nice. Okay, so now let's go to the screen for a second because we need to skip a couple steps. It has a placement line for the background fabric. Well, we've already done that because we did the quilting designs. So we're going to skip it. So I go to my plus or minus needle and I want to skip that step. So I'm going to go down, forward, 1. This is also a tack down stitch for the fabric. Well, we already have that. I'm going to skip that as well. And now it comes to where we need to be with the cocoa stand poles. So let's click OK. So we just skipped 2 steps. All right, so now I want to put a dark brown thread because we're going to do a cocoa stand post now. And the fabric I've chosen, I've gone a little bit different from the kit because, again, I'm doing my own thing. So I'm going to do the cocoa stand, the wood part down below, and the brown. And then I'm going to do my sign in a funky, pretty pink because I like it with little hearts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a brown in that kind of coordinates with this brown fabric, which I think will be this one right here. That will be a pretty brown. So I'm going to put this thread in my thread stand, run it across the back of my machine, never across the side, because you don't want any loose thread to get into that hand wheel. And then we'll stitch this out. So I've got the brown thread up on top. Let's go ahead and stitch out these cocoa stand posts. Here we go. Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to stitch the placement line for the sign. And because my sign is going to be pink to go with my candy theme, I'm going to put a corresponding pink thread in the top of the machine that'll work for this step, which is the placement line, and will also work for the tack down line. So whatever fabric, or if you're using the cork from the embellishment kit, just pick a color thread that will coordinate with that cork or your fabric and put that thread in the top of your machine. And then that way we can stitch this out. So bear with me for 2 seconds. Here we go. And you ready to go? All right, let's stitch out the placement line for the sign. Okay, you know what comes next. I'm going to place the sign fabric down, making sure that I have plenty on all sides. And then we're just going to tack this down. I'm going to use the stylus to help hold it down. Let's tack down the fabric for the sign. So now I'm going to take the hoop off of the machine, and I'm going to take this over to the table, and I'm going to trim away the excess fabric. Now I'm going to try to get as close as I can because this is a raw edge applique on this. Now it's done like a bead stitch to tack it down. So I can go ahead and trim very closely to this, just don't nick the stitches. Okay, you ready to go to the next step? Now I want you to put a brown thread in the top of the machine because now we're going to stitch the placement line for the cocoa stand itself. Brown thread up on top, and here we go. Okay, so I'm just going to take this off the machine for a second so I can have a better view to put my fabric down. So I'm going to go ahead and place my fabric down, making sure that I have plenty of space on all sides. And we are good. Put the hoop back on the machine. Use my stylus to hold it down. Brown thread is still on top of the machine. Let's tack down this fabric. Okay, so now we're going to take the hoop off the machine. We're going to take this over to the table and we're going to trim away the excess fabric from around the outside. And then I'm also going to trim out between these boards. It will give the look of the wooden boards. Okay, it's starting to look like a cocoa stand. So now I'm going to leave the brown thread up on the top because now we're going to do the satin stitches around all these boards. So it's about a 7-minute stitch out in real life. So leave the brown thread up on top, put the foot down, and let's stitch out the satin stitches. Now, I'm going to do something a little unorthodox, okay? Let me take this out and show you what we're going to do. All right, I like this, but I'm not in love with this. I'm like, you know what? Because it has a raw edge applique on it, because Kimberbell designed this to be stitched with cork, and I switched it to fabric because I wanted a pink look. But that raw edge is really bugging me. So I went through and I said, you know what? There's something I should have done. I should have done this in glitter. Because I am the queen of glitter. So what makes more sense? I am going to redo this step, and I am going to put glitter on this cocoa stand. Now, because I used fabric, I'm not even going to take this out. This glitter will go right on top of it, and the trimming of the glitter will be outside of this line, because the way you trim the vinyl, it's always going to leave more of an edge. You can't get as close. So I don't have to take this out. Now, if you were going to replace this with another piece of fabric, then you would have to undo the stitches and take this out. But I don't have to do it because of the vinyl, because it's going to leave a wider edge because it can't trim as close. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how you can change something even after you've passed that step. You can go back and fix it, change it. If there's something that you don't necessarily like, we're going to change it up. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pink thread I need to tack down this glitter in the top of my machine. That's step one. Okay. So now we're going to go to the screen, and I'm going to walk you through how I'm going to get back there. Okay. So remember, right now we're at the countertop, and we're going to come back and we're going to stitch that out in a minute. But now I want to go backwards to where that pink background fabric was tacked down. So I hit the plus and minus button, and I use the up arrow, which is going to take me back in time. See, we just did that step. We just did those satin outlines, so I'm going to go back in time. That was the tack down for the planks. Go back in time one more. That was the placement line for the planks. Go back in time one more. This is the tack down. I don't need to go back any further to the placement line because I already know where it's placed because I've already stitched out the pink fabric once. All I need is to repeat this tack down stitch. That's it. Okay, so let's go back to the hoop cam, and I am going to put this over the top. And because it's curling, I'm going to use a little bit of tape to make sure that I am more than covered on that side. All right? So don't worry about where the foot is. It's going to move to where it needs to be up there. So if I put the foot down, watch what happens. It goes right back to where it needs to be. And now we're going to tack down this glitter vinyl. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the screen because now we need to move forward. We need to go back to that countertop. So I'm going to use the down arrow and I'm going to go forwards in time. Forward. Satin stitches, countertop. That's right where we need to be. And now we're back to where we were with no problems. So now I'm just going to run this over to the table real quick. And I am going to trim away this excess of the glitter vinyl and get our sign back, okay? Isn't that great? And like I said, because the way the vinyl is cut, you can't see any trace of the fabric that was underneath it. To me, that's much better. Now I'm happy with it. Okay, so now we're going to put in a color of thread that you want to be the countertop. And I think I'm going to go with a pale pink. I don't want to go with a white because the white will kind of blend in with the white of the fabric. So I'm going to go with a pale pink. That'll be kind of fun and festive. So choose the colored thread that you want your countertop to be. Put that in the top of your machine and let's stitch it out. Okay, so now we're going to do the wire of the lights. Now lights are usually either a green wire or a white wire. But because I've got white fabric, I don't really want to use a white wire. So I'm thinking about going green, and I'm thinking about using this one on there. So it's kind of a subtle green. I like that one. So put a green thread, or if you want black, you can do black thread as well. So whatever color thread you would like your light strand wire to be, put that thread on the top of the machine and let's stitch it out. That's cute. Okay, so now I'm going to take you to the screen for a second, because what we want to do is decide again if we're using fairy lights in this project. If you are, then you're going to be stitching out these fairy light eyelet holes, which would go along the light strand cords there. If you're not, like I'm not, then you're going to skip this step. So I'm going to use the plus and minus needle button, and I'm just going to go down one, and I'm going to skip those eyelets and then click OK. What I'm going to do with mine is I'm going to do crystals, so it'll shimmer like lights, and I'll place the crystals on that light strand. Okay. All right. So now we are at the tree bucket, and we want to decide what color we want our tree bucket. And I've decided that I am going to do a purple tree bucket down here. So I'm going to put a lavender thread to match my glitter in the top of the machine. So choose what glitter you want for your tree bucket. If you're using the embellishment kit, you're going to be probably using the red glitter. So you'll want to put red thread in the top of the machine. Okay, so let's put the foot down and let's stitch out the tree bucket. Okay, so now let's put down your glitter. And I was curious whether this piece would be big enough, but not quite. It might do it, but it's going to be a little close on those sides, and I'm not going to push it. So I am going to make sure that I have plenty of space, and I'm going to go down to right there. Then I'm going to put the foot down, leave the same color thread up on top as the glitter so it matches, and let's tack down the glitter. Okay, you know what we're going to do now. We're going to take the hoop off the machine, take this over to the table, and we're going to trim away the excess glitter. Isn't that cute? Now again, I'm using an embroidery vinyl that is more like a fabric, so I don't have that top cover to take off, and I don't have to press it down because mine is not a heat transfer vinyl. But if you're using the glitter vinyl from the kit, if you want to at this point, you can use a pressing sheet and iron down the glitter pot just a little bit so that the glitter will adhere to the fabric in its entirety. Okay, so we are now ready after that to go to the next step, which is going to be stitching out the Christmas tree. So I put a little bit of a brighter green thread, not the same green that I used on the light strand, a little bit brighter green up on the top of my machine. And now let's stitch out the Christmas tree. This is about a 4-minute stitch out in real life. So let's stitch a tree. Tree. Okay, so now we're going to put in some thread up on top that's going to match your pot down here. So I'm going to put my lavender thread back in because this is going to do a satin stitch around the outside of that glitter. So I'm going to make it match and coordinate with that glitter. All right, everybody ready? All right, let's stitch out the satin outline. I know I say cute a lot, but Kimberbell has cuteness down pat. And I love their designs. All right, so now we're going to do the hot cocoa sign. And I am thinking, because I chose glitter for my top sign area, that I'm going to do the words hot cocoa and maybe even the 25 cents in white. Because I don't know if anything else is going to show up. But what I want to do is I want to do the hot cocoa in white and see how this shows up against the glitter, and then I'll make a decision as to what color I do the 25 cents in. So I'm going to put white thread in the top of my machine to stitch out the words hot cocoa. And we're ready to stitch? Okay, here we go. Let's do it. Yes, I love the way the white shows up on the glitter. So I'm going to do the 25 cents in the same color white. So it looks like a continuous painted sign, but I love the way it pops. So I want the 25 cents to have that same look. So I'm going to leave white thread up on top, and then I'm going to stitch out the 25 cents. We're almost done. You got this. Yes, I love that look. That's cool. Okay, I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to go and put my variegated thread that I was using for the rest of the snowflakes. This is the variegated that goes from a white to a Cinderella blue color. That makes all the snowflakes look individual. All right, so I'm going to put that thread in the top of my machine. You put the thread in the top of your machine that you're using for the snowflakes. And we are ready to go. We have 3 snowflakes to stitch out. This is about 8 minutes in real life. And we will be done with this block. Isn't this fun? All right, let's do it. Stitch out the snowflakes. Didn't that turn out super cute? I love it. Okay, so the stitching is all done. So now let's take the hoop off the machine, take it over to the table, and let's finish up this block. All right, isn't that cute? I love how the glitter turned out. I love how we fixed that. See, there's nothing to always set in stone. We can always fix things. Turned out super cute. All right, so now the only thing that we have left to do is to trim up this block. Last time I trimmed it up with Kimberbell's orange pop ruler set. This time I'm going to go back and I'm going to trim it up with a regular ruler. So the first thing you need to look at is the stitch line here around the outside. That was the tack down where the system attached the fabric to the block. Well, that is going to magically also be your cut line. This block is squared up to 6.5 by 8.5. This is the distance that is 8.5. So I'm going to come here and line her up. And I can definitely see it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. So my motto is, can I see the stitch line? The first cut's really easy. I'm looking for that stitch line, and it's just underneath the ruler. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut it off. Put the stabilizer down here. And I get rid of that. That one's easy. Now I'm going to be really, really careful when I line this up line it up to that. And I come down here to 14.5, so 6, 14.5 is my 8.5. Can I see the stitch line? Yes, it's just underneath that ruler. So I am good to cut like so. And we're good on that side. Now this is going to be 6.5 inches. So I'm going to go to my 6, 12.5. I'm going to line it up. And can I see the stitch line? Yes, it's just underneath the ruler. Then it's good to cut. Turn around. Do the same thing to 12.5. Line it up. Can I see the stitch line? Yes, it's just underneath the ruler. Then I'm good to cut. And that's how I make sure that I don't cut off part of the block that's not supposed to be cut off. My motto is, can I see that stitch line? Very, very important. Isn't that cute? You did it. That turned out really nice. I am happy with that. Okay, so I hope you had as much fun today making this block as I did. And I hope you stay tuned and subscribe to my channel. It's free and it really helps me do what I do for you, and I truly appreciate it. So the next time we come back, we're going to be working on the 8-inch cornerstone blocks in my pattern. If you're doing the Kimberbell bench pillow the way it is, you won't need to do those corner blocks, but you might want to tune in just to see how it's done so you can do that for a future project. But I'll be doing the 8-inch cornerstone blocks for my table topper. And then we'll start working on the center. We're almost done. You got this. Isn't that cute? So I hope to see you here again next time on Jolly Molly TV. Until then, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.